The other big story, a big change to the COVID-19 guidelines. The CDC just decreased the recommended distance between students in the classroom. It has also relaxed other guidelines. Good afternoon. I'm Sherman Chow. Nationally, a big announcement since many states have not returned to in-person learning. But here in Texas, classrooms opened up last fall. This is huge news for kids and parents everywhere. Our Melissa Correa joining us now live. So Mel, put this CDC change into context for us.
Well, Sherman, a year into this pandemic, and the CDC now has more data to pull from. And that new research shows that students can now sit 3 feet from each other as long as they're wearing face masks in the classroom. But 6 feet of social distancing is still required when students do things like eat on campus, participate in sporting events, or choir practice. Basically, any activity where those droplets can really fly. Because KHOU is your education station, folks, you know we turn to area school districts to see if changes are coming.
Galveston ISD walks parents through pandemic protocols.
Desks will be positioned at least 6 feet apart.
Through this video uploaded to YouTube in August, though an edit may be coming. In an email today, Galveston ISD confirms its COVID team will discuss the CDC's relaxed guidelines next week. The decrease in distance is because the CDC doesn't really have the evidence that 6 feet is required to maintain low spread. New data also removes recommendations for plastic shields or other barriers between desks. The World Health Organization and the American Academy of Pediatrics both recommended at least 3 feet between desks. Some school districts, like Klein, try their best to distance students. On its website, details of how Klein's facilities team looks at every classroom space to determine the best way to create social distancing, including rearranging desks based on student capacity and square footage. Last September, we reported Houston ISD was considering 3 feet between desks. HISD parents told KHOU then,
I think that would have a huge impact on sending people in person or not, because a lot of people are thinking of that 10 to 12 student ratio in a class, certainly not 20.
In the spirit of transparency, Sci-Fair and Katie earlier released a series of videos showing parents all of the steps taken to disinfect classrooms. The CDC still believes daily cleaning, hand washing, physical distancing, masks, and contact tracing slowed the spread of COVID in schools.
Okay, folks, so KHOU is going to check in with school districts once they return from spring break. But parents, bottom line, if you want to know exactly what's happening in your child's classroom, send an email over to their teacher. As for educators and school staff, adults on campus, the CDC is still recommending that you social distance by at least 6 feet. Folks, you can read more about the new research and these recommendations from the CDC. They're online now at khou.com. Sherman.
You bet a lot of parents and kids will be checking that out. Thank you very much, Melissa Correa.